Evening, everyone. I'm going to get started with tonight's program. If you haven't already grabbed the program, they're outside the door. Need to go up. Protect people. All right. Don't down. All right. Again, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. We're very thankful that you could join us to celebrate this special occasion and commemorate the 118th anniversary of FarmHouse Fraternity, the 96th anniversary of Iowa State Chapter of FarmHouse Fraternity, and finally the 100th anniversary of Lantis Fraternity at Iowa State. We look forward to a wonderful evening of celebration through the awarding of scholarships, thanking those who are special to our fraternity, and honoring those who came before us. Before we begin with the program, we'd like to ask brothers of our fraternity to stand and recite the object of our fraternity. The object. Thank you. You can see that. Just a few notes. So if you didn't see the link, the Moms Club auction, they're currently selling some NFL memorabilia, and that is an online auction, and that'll close tonight at 6 p.m. The link was sent out via email, so if you haven't taken a look at that, please do so. Is that? 6 oh, already closed. Never mind. Scratch that. You still can bid on silent auction items. Those are downstairs. There should be a list at your table. There's about 65 items. Mainly, there's the top items are composites from the late 90s up until about 2013, I believe. So if those pledge classes are you, go take a look and take one home with you. Those will close about 10 to 15 minutes after the conclusion of the program. So just a note with that, today is Day of Giving for FarmHouse. We're going to check with Allison if that'll count, if this donation will count towards that. So keep that in mind that it may count towards that, but we can't promise that. So just keep that in mind. I did hear a great idea out front earlier of someone that was maybe going to buy a few trophies, go visit a few FarmHouse brothers, drop them off at their house and leave. So you can certainly do that. And I thought that was a great idea to share. So to start off, I'd like to share a short story and a short history of Lantis that was prepared by Jess Watkins, a 1964 alum of FarmHouse. He worked through the beginning months of the year to put this together. So we'd like to share that. Bear with me, it's about a page. So it's titled Lantis at a Glance. Iowa State, 1922, the beginning of the Roaring Twenties. The Great War was over, as was the Spanish flu epidemic. Immigration was peaking, and federal money flowing to land-grant colleges to feed the growing population. Iowa State had a miserable football team then. As my mother wrote in her scrapbook next to the Drake score, at least the band showed up. To improve the football program, Iowa State recruited a successful Ohio high school college coach. He came to Ames and brought 3 players with him, including Jack Trice. In the fall of 1922, 12 third-year men started discussing the possibility of forming a social fraternity. There were probably 12 different reasons why none of them were already fraternity members. One was known to have told his son, whatever you do, when you are invited to rush, do not shout your mouth off. Just stay calm. There were 2 other men our founders knew during that year, James Hilton and Jack Trice. James Hilton was 1 year ahead of the 12. He graduated in the spring of 1923 and immediately married his Nevada sweetheart. Jack was about the same age as the 12, but just arrived that fall of 1922 along with his young wife. Several of our founders met Jack and heard him describe his goal of getting a college agriculture education and using it to help colored farmers in the southern states. Trice and Hilton had one thing in common. They were both very poor and worked as janitors for Iowa State. Jack at the old state gym with its basement level swimming pool, and James at several smaller buildings, including the Knoll. Had it not been for age and marital status, these two men might have been included with the Lance's founders. Most of the 12 lived in the old Hughes dormitory, now the west end of Riley. Some lived off campus at rooming houses such as High Street. The rooming house included small individual rooms with desk and a single bed, shared bathroom, and cooked meals. Some Lanthus men who already lived at High Street recognized the house could be converted into a social fraternity. That spring, after dorm contract fulfillment, the rest of the 12 moved to High Street and commenced work with the owner to make changes. One wall was knocked out to make an open air pad room with bunk beds. Additional modifications were made to the eating area to make it a formal dining / chapter room. It worked quite well, but not large enough to host parties like the other fraternities. As the fall of 1923 school year began, the Lanthus group set out to gain recognition from Iowa State University and the other Greek fraternities and sororities. They knew three things must be achieved for success: quality, mass, and momentum. Formal rush, including dinner and songfest, attracted new members to move into the house the following year. There were some setbacks and disappointments. Jack Trice died in October. As a group of founders attended his memorial service, a group of founders attended his memorial service on the Camp Hill grass. They expressed their condolence and support for Jack's young wife, about to accompany Jack back to his small home in Ohio for burial. How could quality, mass, momentum be achieved with all 12 graduates the following spring of 1924? To answer this question, there are two clues: the 1925 bomb and James Hilton. In the bomb, published in the spring of 25, Lanthus is pictured with 24 men, including all 12 founders. They tricked the bomb editors into showing both undergrad and graduates. Also, we read in Carl Hamilton's book, In No Time at All, Jimmy Hilton went to work for Iowa State Extension Services upon graduation and traveled about Iowa, putting on demonstrations of how to butcher a hog. The founders who did not go on to graduate school remained in Ames with good jobs and income to buy a car. To support Lanthus and augment their social life, they remained active in the chapter. They paid dues for meals and any bed that was available. They were living the life of bachelors in paradise. 2 years of grads, 1924 and 25, remained very active in the High Street Lanthus house. These two graduating classes pitched in the financial support to fund the move to the big house on West Street in the fall of 1925. To celebrate this accomplishment, they threw a party January 30th, 1926. They now have a chapter room with dance floor and space for live music performers, the Louisiana Red Devils. There are many actives, alums, dates, and chaperones in attendance, notably Dr. and Mrs. Maurice Helzer. Soon to become Dean of Students, Helzer had taken a special interest in Lanthus. For the next 25 years, Dean Helzer was there supporting FarmHouse during the challenges of the Depression and World War II. So we thank Jess for putting that together, and thanks for listening to that as we acknowledge our 100th anniversary. So as you all know, we have a strong history and heritage to be very proud of, and we are excited to be gathering here tonight to mark another successful year in our history book. We have a very special guest with us tonight, LaRue Clark. We annually sing happy birthday, so we're once again going to do that. So if you would join me in singing happy birthday to LaRue, we will do that before we kick off. All right. Happy birthday to you.
You are singers, and you are such a wonderful group, and I'm just so pleased to be able to be here. You were a good group when my husband was here. Good group now, so thank you very much.
Right. To kick off the evening, I'd like to invite Adam Wolf, chapter president, to share an update of the Iowa State chapter Farmhouse Fraternity. Adam?
There's a lot of papers here. Hold on. Now you want to bind her out. Okay, here we go. Good evening. My name is Adam Wolf, and I have the privilege of serving as president of the Iowa State chapter of Farmhouse Fraternity for the 2023 calendar year. To start this evening's program, I would like to provide an update on our chapter and our activities so far this semester. In January, 8 of our gentlemen attended the Farmhouse Leadership Institute in St. Louis, Missouri, for a weekend connecting with other chapter officers and learning the basics of our positions. Later in my presentation, I will discuss our takeaways from the weekend in St. Louis. Our other January high point was the celebration of the SAR ceremony with the 7 members of our 2023 pledge class, which serves as the formal start to our initiation process and our new member education process. In February, we hosted the Scholarship and Faculty Dinner, in which members who achieved a 3.50 grade point average or above were served a steak dinner and were able to welcome a faculty member who helped them achieve such high marks. Also in February, we held our Special Olympics Athlete Dinner with our Greek Week team at our chapter facility. In March, our Moms Club hosted 77 moms and 1 grandma for our 2023 Moms Weekend. The weekend included a silent auction, the annual meeting of the club, a formal luncheon, a live auction of desserts and Jamie's t-shirt quilt, and senior send-offs. We remain humbled by the support of our Moms Club and are pleased to announce the weekend raised nearly $10,000 for comfort additions to the chapter facility. We celebrated our initiation ceremony, the Pearl Ceremony, with 7 now initiated brothers the following day. March 26th through April 2nd was Greek Week. The men of Farmhouse, paired with the women of Alpha Gamma Delta and the men of Chi Phi, received the following accolades: 3rd place for Team Banner, 3rd place for Greek Race, Best Choreography and 2nd place for Lip Sync, 1st place for Spirit, and 1st place for Karaoke. Last night, which ended about midnight, so really ended this morning, was our 2nd annual Testicle Festival, raising money and awareness for the Testicular Cancer Society and Leukemia and Lymphoma Societies. We sold between 400 and 500 tickets for Rocky Mountain oysters, popcorn chicken, cake balls, cheese curds, and other ball-shaped food, live music, and games. We also sold over 100 t-shirts for our fans, which are still available for purchase today. It was a great evening, raising awareness for 2 very important causes. Our chapter's upcoming events include our formal in Kansas City, Missouri on Saturday, April 22nd. On Tuesday, April 25th, we will host Christian Wiggins, departing Chief Executive Officer of Farmhouse International, and Dave Hansen, an Iowa State initiate from the 1990 pledge class who started his tenure as the new Chief Executive Officer today, for dinner and a chapter visit. On Saturday, April 29th, we will have our first Farmhouse golf outing at Vinker Memorial Golf Course. More information can be found in last month's edition of Atlantis or with our alumni directors. And on April 30th will be our fall 2023 chapter officer elections and homecoming selection Sunday. I would like to acknowledge that following approval of the Intercollegiate Council, good glory, 10 men established Lanthus Fraternity on April 16th, 1923. This fraternity in 1927 would become the Iowa State chapter of Farmhouse Fraternity. Though we look forward to celebrating our 100th year in 2027, we would not be where we are today without this milestone. Our chapter is currently involved in a search for our next chapter chef. If you know of interested candidates, please feel free to reach out to me. And finally, I noted that our team had an insightful week in St. Louis, Missouri in January. We left the weekend feeling fortunate. Our chapter is one of very few in the farmhouse landscape that has little issues recruiting quality men, retaining members, connecting with alumni, or obtaining needed donations for improvement projects. Our current position as a chapter is thanks to many people, but most notably our alumni and donors. The value of our chapter of Farmhouse Fraternity is that those touched by this organization give back in a way that few other chapters at Iowa State or within the Farmhouse International organization do. So if you have donated money for scholarships, or have donated to facilities improvement projects, or have recommended a potential new member to us, or have volunteered time, pleasures, and comforts to our brotherhood, know of my genuine gratitude. Your dedication and compassion make my job easier and ensure that this brotherhood remains strong. It is an honor to serve in this position, the same position that my father held 31 years ago this semester. If I can ever be of service, please do not hesitate to reach out. Go Cyclones, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam, for that great update. Now I'd like to welcome Matt Scarshock to the podium to give us an association board update. Matt?
Don't worry, I'm not the current president of the association board still. I'm the secretary. Ryan Zinasek, our president, well, he's been sick for a little while now. Didn't feel comfortable to come, but very grateful to be able to serve on the board. Let me go ahead and name off our current board members just to remind everyone who's on the board. And if you're here, feel free to stand up. We have Ryan Zinasek, Dwayne Wolf, Dan Johnson, Dr. Brian Wormy, Doug Moberly, myself, Matt Scarshock, and then the MVP of the group, Eugene Rodberg, as our treasurer. Yeah, I'd like to thank these men for continuing to serve, continuing to listen to the chapter for what they need, and they really do serve this association very well with everything they do. Let's see. That Lanthus letter was about the Lanthus was great. So if you guys could share that or publish it somewhere, that'd be awesome. One thing I did want to mention about the Lanthus was where the name comes from. Does anyone know where the name Lanthus comes from? Yeah. Yeah, there's a bull. Yeah. Yeah, I had a quote from one of our founders, J.C. Holbert. He said, the Lanthus was chosen, according to J.C. Holbert, because the men were trying to think of a name that would soon be forgotten. Because we wanted it to be Farmhouse right away. So we found a young heifer bull in Ken Clark's herd, and this bull had the name Lanthus. We looked up the bull's pedigree, figured he wouldn't live very long. So we adopted that name. So, and to be fair, I had to look up the definition of pedigree. So, I guess that shows how far Farmhouse has come since. So, go on. Yeah. That being said, it's amazing that this chapter's been here for 100 years, and we do definitely need to acknowledge that tomorrow will be that 100th anniversary. But we even more so look forward to in 4 years celebrating 100 years of Farmhouse here. It's amazing when businesses last 100 years. I think it's even more amazing when organizations supported by 18 to 22-year-old men survives 100 years. So it takes a lot of help from moms and dads, and it takes a lot of help from alumni to support that. So just a round of applause for everyone. That being said, today is the FH Farmhouse Day of Giving. I just donated before I came here, just because I saw I was getting phone calls and emails and stuff. So, but I noticed that Iowa State has a huge presence in participating in today's Day of Giving. So, huge thanks to kind of standing out above the rest. I'm always thoroughly impressed with how Farmhouse alumni really pay it forward and really give back to this organization on an international level to support Farmhouse abroad. So yeah, thank you, and maybe a round of applause to all the support that everyone has given Farmhouse Fraternity International. Let's not take up too much time. The upcoming projects that the board is working on right now, they're not glamorous. We don't have any statues that we're putting in the front yard or like waterfalls or anything like that that look really cool. What instead we're working on is trying to maintain the existing property and some of those things that weren't touched in our most recent expansion. So one item that we're looking at is replacing and repairing a lot of the windows and trim work on the north side, the old part of the building. That'll get done this summer. And then the second item is the second and third floor bathrooms really haven't been touched in about 30 years. So we're going to try to do some renovation on one of the floors this summer and then attack the next floor the next year. So those are two of the bigger projects that we're going to be working on. Once again, not glamorous. It's hard to get donors to support those kinds of projects, but for sure, we're trying to continue to maintain the existing property and kind of tackle those projects that were on the back burner from this recent expansion. So, lastly, I just want to say we're very proud of this group of men. They are far surpassing any GPA I could have ever attained, and then continuing to participate and on campus, take leadership roles on campus, and always doing it with a spirit of congeniality. And that being said, too, huge thank you to all scholarship donors. We're going to be recognizing a lot of scholarship award winners today. But we're giving out roughly $80,000 in scholarship gifts this year, and we're continuing to do that to greater and greater levels year after year. And that takes a lot of donors. So huge thank you to alumni, friends, and family that have been able to participate in that program. So with that being said, I think I'm done. So thanks again. It's a pleasure to serve.
Thank you very much, Matt. Our next update comes from Corby Fichter, who currently serves on the International Executive Board. Corby, if you'd like to come up, podium's yours.
By the way, Matt, update. 52 donors from Iowa State at 24,000, which first surpasses every other chapter in North America. So keep it up. So great start. So thank you. So I'll give you a little update from IEB. Obviously, all of you know we have a new CEO. When we started this process, I was on the search committee when it started. There were 3 of us on the board. There was 2 from the association, and Riley Bergman was some of you know Riley from Illinois, was part of our search committee. We hired a search firm to help us. When it started, things were pretty tough. We really didn't know where we were headed, but things really picked up. Towards the end, we interviewed 7 semifinalists. 3 of those were Farmhouse brothers. So huge in that regard. So 3 weeks ago in Chicago, we interviewed 3 finalists. 2 of those men were Farmhouse brothers. So to pick a Farmhouse brother from Iowa State couldn't be better. So it was really cool at the end when we got it done. I understand Dave and Christian are being here next couple weeks, maybe. So you all get a chance to see Dave. Dave is from Algona. He was here from 89 to 93. And who knows Dave? Got a few in here, right? Good. So I look forward to meeting Dave and giving him a great hello from Iowa State. Couple of other things. I think all of you know Conclave 24 will be in Omaha, Nebraska. I believe you will be asked to support and help. So I'm guessing you'll hear from Allison soon or somebody else. So FYI. The other thing we're doing is, as I think all of you know, we're seeing all the farmhouse chapters in North America. We're down to probably about half done. Most of us had a chance to get to 4 or 5 or 6 of them over the last few months. Our plan is to finish before Conclave. So it's been really good, and we look forward to finishing that task up. Next thing, which is probably one of the tougher ones, I think maybe some of you know, we've had a lot of staff changes. It's kind of normal. People come to work for a while, they leave, but with Christian leaving, I think we lost a few more. So we're in the process of hiring some new people. So if you know anybody that would really have a passion and a heart to work for FarmHouse, let them know. I'll probably put this out as a advertisement. It would really be great to see some FarmHouse men that have graduated that would be interested in working for our fraternity. We don't get a lot. We don't get a lot of applicants from FarmHouse, maybe surprisingly. Just throw that out if that was anything that anybody you had interest in doing that someday. It'd be a great spot. It's in Kansas City. My daughter was down there, and I told it's a great spot. So just throw that out if you ever have any interest working for fraternity. So I think that's my updates, unless anybody's got questions for now. Good news is CEO search is done. We're all breathing a little easier, and Christian's on board through the 1st of May. Not sure what his next plan is, but look forward to seeing Dave and Christian. So, okay. Thank you.
You're not gonna leave yet.
I can't leave.
Yeah. So, I guess we're going to share a little bit about the new Farmhouse Heritage Scholarship. I'll let Corby kick it off, and we'll go from there. So, you know how long, when this really started, Paul? Last fall. They started a scholarship several years ago. Yeah. Last fall is when this. So Paul Castle started this Ag Heritage Scholarship. A few months ago, he asked me, Tim Smith, Tim Dunbar to join, he and Colton. So we have had a couple of meetings already, but our next step, well, we met with Iowa State Foundation last week. And Tim and I and Paul have all written letters that we're planning to send out to alums and people we know about our story about why this scholarship is so important. And I think the bottom line, if you don't know, the number of young men coming to universities is all obviously going down. The number of young men coming to universities at ag is definitely coming. And the percentage of ag majors here at FarmHouse, and don't get me wrong, all majors are great, okay? And our ag major numbers are dropping. So this scholarship is to try to enhance recruitment and retention of FarmHouse men at Iowa State. And we're going through the Iowa State Foundation versus FarmHouse. So we've got some letters to go. There is a document out front. Yeah, so it should be one on the table. It gives you an idea about what it is. We are trying to raise $250,000 endowment so that we can have
5 $2,500 scholarships to provide new farmhouse brothers and also to retain them throughout your time here at Iowa State. The one thing I think we need to do, and I think we plan to do, if we could get some dollars coming in, I think there's 30-some thousand in that endowment today. If we can get that a little higher, we will start just drawing money out of that to provide some scholarships even starting next fall. So if you have an interest, you can get a hold of me, hold Tim Smith, Tim Dunbar, Paul Castle, Colton. We're going to get some more information out via email. I think we're planning on having some meetings in certain parts of Iowa to get alums back and talk about the scholarship. So, did I miss anything? All right, so sure. Questions on that for now? We're just trying to get the awareness out there. We got a couple people, foundation that's going to help us. Okay, thanks. All right. We're moving to our alumni and chapter awards presentation. So our first up this year is our Darrell E. Snyder Award. And as you can see in your program, the Darrell E. Snyder Award is given to an alumnus by their deeds, who by their deeds have contributed to the growth and development of the fraternity. It is intended to honor these men who have given of themselves so that the ideals of FarmHouse would become stronger and attain a meaning beyond that of mere words. This year's 2023 recipient, he's familiar. Maybe. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Mr. Corby Victor. Corby, would you like to come up, share a few words upon that? Nice pick. So, first of all, to all the Iowa State men here at FarmHouse for this award. I'm truly humbled. I'm honored to receive it. I greatly appreciate what's here, and I have for years. FarmHouse here is really a special place in my heart. So I got a few minutes, just a few. I got a couple of things I just want to talk about. Good. First of all, I can tell you the last 9 months or so since contact back in the city. And it's been a great ride, to say the least. I've learned a ton on what's going on in fraternity, both good and maybe not so. But to be honest, I didn't know some of this stuff was, and I didn't even know some of the struggles some of our chapters have. And to give you an idea, maybe you've heard this, but we have chapters that might have been in the mid 40s to 50 in 2018 and 19, and now are in the 20s and struggling to bring that back. So what we have here at Iowa State is truly, but to me, the most important thing for me right now is just the past 9 months, they've regenerated my passion, my devotion to FarmHouse. And I got a desire to be involved in FarmHouse for several years. And I've had it for the past few years, but I needed to get those kids raised, get them graduated, get them married, and start families. And now it's time for me to give back time and those passions and those comforts, those things. I've already talked about IED, so I'll move on from that one. Second one I want to talk about is recruitment to FarmHouse. And I know we've touched on it a little bit, but as I said, we all know there's fewer young men coming to universities, especially 4 years. And it's not just here, it's across the country. So with fewer young men coming to college, we have fewer young men to recruit to farms. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest concerns I've heard over the past several months being on the board. And we're trying to figure out how do we change that? And how do we make that better? But I do want to take a moment and thank the Iowa State Farmhouse chapter for the work and recruitment you have done and you are doing today. I can tell you that Iowa State Farmhouse is known as one of the best chapters across North America, and I'm not biased, maybe a little. Why? It's because of every young man in this room tonight that it continues to recruit people you know back in your school, back in your community, and getting those young men on board to come. It's also about young men that are in this room that have left, graduated, and moved on, but are still doing it. And it's also about some of us older guys that have been in the house a long time ago that continue to recruit people that we know in our workplaces, in our towns, in our schools. So great job. Keep up the great work. And I would say for the alumni in the room especially, our job's never done. Recruitment is one of the biggies and is probably even more important today. I've got a very quick story and then I got one more thing I want to talk about. This story is about someone Gene and I know very well. No names. This person attended Iowa State for his college career. He didn't pursue FarmHouse. We tried. At the end of his college career, he went on to law school at the University of Iowa. After graduation, he asked us for some names of people he could connect with as he began looking for a new job at a law firm. All we thought was, if he'd been in FarmHouse, piece of cake, but had tons of connections. Speaking of connections, my last topic is not just about connections, but it's really about brotherhood. I had the opportunity to travel North Dakota State and Fargo a couple weeks ago. I'll tell you, that's North Country. The snow was 3 foot deep. It was ugly. But a question was asked of me and the other IEB member that was with me. What does brotherhood mean to me, mean to us? Question. I would ask you to consider how you would answer. But I answered it the best I could, but I've had more opportunity to think about that over several weeks. And here's my thought. Brotherhood goes way beyond friendship. Although lifelong friends do happen in farms. I've had so many mentors from FarmHouse, too numerous to count. Each one of them is different, and that's a good thing for me, as each mentor and friend brings a different perspective on life and life's decisions. Right now, a couple of those brotherhood stories are going on right now. I would have never told you 2 or 3 months ago I'd be spending time with Paul Castle, Tim Smith, Tim Dunbar, who we all lived in the house. And it brings back those memories that you kind of forget about. But it's huge to come back together, work on a project, remember all those values that you had, and do it. I also have to mention a couple of my best friends. Best friends for life and best brothers I've ever had. One of them, Terry Schott. Terry couldn't be here tonight, but we just talked last week. We usually have chats or texts every week, maybe more often. I promise I'm only going to tell one story on Terry, because I have a lot. Terry and I both have had the privilege the last couple of years to write stories to our family. Storyworthy is in the area of used it. Terry did his about 2 or 3 years ago, and I did mine last year. And the kids on both sides of the family asked Terry what his relationship was with me and why, and then vice versa. And we've shared those stories with each other. But here's a story about Terry that I never knew. Terry told me last fall that he had received his bid to join the house during his summer rush party when we were both rushing. We were in the same pledge class together. He got in that night, I didn't. The next meeting, my name was brought up again for the house, for my bid. Unfortunately, I was voted in. But Terry finally told me 45 years later, he didn't vote for me. I won't tell you what I told him. But he said, I didn't think you had the values to. To be honest, maybe I didn't back. I guess I needed some brotherhood and friends and mentors to help shape me back. The other person I want to mention here is Steve Henry. Steve's in the room. Steve and I have also had been lifelong friends and mentors for each other. I truly believe some of that friendship and mentorship started one evening at a chapter meeting during constructive criticism, and I was the recipient. I honestly don't remember all the things Steve told me that night, but I remember thinking he was right. And there were some things I needed to change and get right. So guys, when I think of brotherhood, we're obviously pursuing people with similar values that we all have. But I can guarantee you, just like me, your friends, your mentors, your brothers will shape you and change you for the rest of your life so that you're ready, raising families, getting out in the workplace. And I can never forget the mentors and the brothers that I had to help shape me. So that's why we're here. And I would encourage you, you might find somebody that doesn't quite have what you think, but if the ability is there and you shape that person, it's amazing what that person might do then. So thank you again for the award. Thanks for the time. I think I'm done. Right.
Our next award this evening is the Joan Skinner Memorial Award, which is given to a woman who unselfishly has given of her time, talents, and love to further enhance the objectives and ideals of Farmhouse. And this year's awardee is Brenda Weiss, mother of Farmhouse brother Jed Weiss. Want to call up Brenda? So I'll be honest, I didn't know that I was going to present this award, but that's okay because Brenda was the treasurer of the Moms Club while my mom was president this past semester, or this past year. And for those who don't know, my mom was sort of thrown into being the president a year ahead of schedule due to some other things that happened, and had experienced one whole Moms weekend before she planned the whole thing. And it was wise words from Brenda and Brenda's knowledge of the Moms Club as an organization that helped my mom be able to plan things like the luncheon and not worry about finances and bylaws and rules. Because for those who know my mother, she's very good at planning luncheons and is really terrible at finances, bylaws, and rules. So I can say on behalf of my mom and on behalf of the chapter, a huge thank you to Brenda for the hours that she put in behind the scenes on the Moms Club and in shaping a really great son who she should be super proud of in Jed Weiss. So congratulations.
Just tell you about my introduction to Farmhouse. Many years ago, as a second semester sophomore, I came to Iowa State and didn't know anybody, including my roommate, and that first Sunday of spring semester, she invited me to go with her to her Quaker meeting. And we walked to a residential house, sat in a living room of about 30 people in a circle, and they were all at least twice my age, except for one young college man who was grinning ear to ear the whole time. And as soon as the meeting was over, he made a beeline to us, introduced himself as Doug Beam, pledge class of 91, and invited us to a hockey game that coming Friday night. And my roommate couldn't go, and I was very hesitant to want to go with some fraternity boys to a hockey game that I wasn't familiar with. But I thought, this is a overly polite boy at a Quaker meeting, so I figured it probably was safe. So I went ahead and went and had a great time, and he invited me back to the house for a tour. And in spite of the fact the house back in the early 90s wasn't anything to really shout about, and as he showed me the sleeping pad and we stepped over a laundry basket full of frozen meat, the freezer was full, I was taken right away with the men, and I was just so impressed. Everyone was friendly, respectful, kind, smart, hilarious. I just right away had enjoyed meeting everybody and was quite taken. And it wasn't long after that I met my now husband Russ, college class of 91 or 90, he's 90. And had I known him when he started his freshman year, probably wouldn't have wanted anything to do with him, as he was a hard partying, arrogant atheist. And thanks to a good handful of upperclassmen who mentored him and showed him the value of the Four Folds farmhouse, he made a dramatic change in his life. And I got to know that Russ. And not only that, but what a joy it's been the past 4 years to get to be involved with my son again in it and see him. I already thought I was pretty impressed with what he ended up as after high school. I thought he was pretty impressive then, but seeing him grow and mature intellectually, spiritually, value his physical health, and just the meaningful relationships. Due to circumstances, we were unable to provide him with any siblings. And so for him to come here and gain 70 plus brothers who have helped encourage him, support him, and hold him accountable has been a blessing beyond anything I could imagine. I cannot say enough good things about FarmHouse, the organization, and the high character of the men involved. And I certainly appreciate how it's shaped the two most important men in my life. And I am humbled and honored to accept this award and hope I can go on and support and sing the praises of FarmHouse in the future.
Our last awardee this evening is the Friend of Farmhouse award, described in the program as the purpose of this award is to recognize and honor individuals, families, firms, corporations, organizations, and any others who have demonstrated a special friendship to any member, chapter, association, foundation, or the fraternity as a whole. And this evening's awardee is Christian Wiggins, who, as of today, is the former chief executive officer of FarmHouse International. My predecessor in this position was the one who nominated Christian. They had a great relationship, and I would only say that in my working with Christian is a man of exceptional integrity, who we have had, I think, the good fortune of getting to learn from a lot along the way. I spent many hours during FLI learning risk policies and things like that from him. Very knowledgeable in how the fraternity operates as an organization. And then Christian was actually kind enough to extend the opportunity to have dinner with both he and Dave next week. Christian could not be here tonight. Actually, if we would have invited Dave, Dave could not have been here tonight either because they are both at the dedication of the Missouri house, which is tonight, and that is good for FarmHouse that the Missouri chapter is back in good standing and has a house. But they are both there dedicating that house. But Christian was kind enough to offer that they would come, they would sit down and meet with us. He offered a meeting with the executive team. He offered a meeting with our guys, and then dinner on Tuesday because he could not be here tonight. So we are grateful for his service and his willingness to work with us and to hear us through a lot of issues. I think sometimes we are the squeaky wheel chapter because we do things occasionally differently than everybody else does. And he has always been willing to listen, to sit down and hear us out. And I have appreciated that. So just, he cannot be here tonight, but friend of FarmHouse Board to Christian Wiggins.
At this time, I'd like to invite Carson Jones, Aiden Hall, and Truman Patterson to come announce this year's Heritage Award winner.
In the lives of men who strive for things that are highest and noblest, there will be those who go above and beyond. It is our duty to honor their accomplishments and their achievements. The Heritage Award was established to annually recognize an alumnus who has sacrificed their time, pleasures, and comforts for the betterment of their fraternity, community, and profession. Steve Henry is the definition of a farmhouse man who represents the values we strive to uphold on a daily basis. Steve grew up on a family farm founded by his grandfather and passed down to his father in Nevada, Iowa. As a student in Nevada, Steve was a contributing member of the local 4-H club where he showed calves and worked in the day-to-day operations on the farm. When planning for life in college, he was skeptical about the Greek community. After meeting Tim Smith, a then active member in the house, and experiencing the strong values of the chapter, Steve decided to pledge Farmhouse Fraternity as an incoming freshman.
During his time as an active member, Steve served the House in positions of Secretary and Vice President. His time was highlighted by the events such as Barn Party and the late-night discussions where he was able to bond with his brothers and grow in his faith. He studied agricultural economics and earned an internship at the Federal Land Bank Association after his junior year despite the financial recession during the time. After graduating, Steve returned to the bank before moving to Kearney, Nebraska, where he worked for MetLife. In 1998, Steve moved back with his family farm after his wife, Lori, found a position in Ames. Steve returned to the family farm, and by working hard with his father, the two were able to expand their operation. Since his time in college, Steve has continued to serve Iowa State, his community, and Farmhouse Fraternity. Steve has served on Iowa State University's Committee of Agricultural Development, the Iowa Soybean Association Board of Directors, the On-Farm Network, the Key Co-op Board, and is currently serving as the chair of Farm Credit Services of America Board of Directors. He has also served several years on the Association Board of Farmhouse Fraternity and as an elder in various other roles for Cornerstone Church in Ames. Steve continues to give back to the house in a variety of ways, one of which being the opportunity he gives active members and graduate students to work on the farm's operations.
Steve credits the fourfold ideals that he developed during his time as an active member for his continued success in many aspects of his life. His life has displayed this balance of the fourfold through his influence on his farm's operations, Iowa State University's agricultural programs, Cornerstone Church, Farmhouse, and the lives of many others. In reflecting upon his time both at Farmhouse and beyond, Steve preaches, surround yourself with people you want to be like. You won't find them in the world as easy. Inspired by the 9 values established within the name of Farmhouse Fraternity, Steve Henry continues to live a life that displays what it means to be a farmhouse man and continuously builds others up in the pursuit of those ideals. we want to recognize Steve, this year's winner of the Farmhouse Heritage.
Wow, I wish I really did live up to all the good things that we're saying. It's a daily walk, and some days we can do it really well, some days we can't. But you know, if we live by faith, ambition, reverence, morality, honesty, obedience, unity, service, and excellence, how can we go wrong? So thank you very much. And I have to say before I leave here that Corby, I don't know that I gave you an active criticism. I think it was my admiration for what happened with your dad your senior year. So, but yes, I just want to say thank you very much. The friends you make, the experiences you have here are great. Keep it up. Thank you for everything, and thank you for who you are.
Congratulations, Steve, and thanks for all that you do. At this time, I'd like to invite our house mother, Jamie Hewitt, and Adam to the front here to give our Quilt of Valor presentation. As you can see, the quilt is hanging over here, and we'll let them share a little bit more.
Thank you. So I asked for Jamie to do this presentation with me because I thought that it was important that for the men who don't know, and also for the alums who don't know, a little backstory as to how Farmhouse got involved with the Quilt of Valor program, and also what this quilt means. And then I will talk about our 2023 recipient. Jamie.
I like to quilt. So, taking the position as director doesn't necessarily give you that opportunity. But I have many friends who are in groups that sew for the Quilt of Valor. The Quilt of Valor is given to living veterans and special members of the service by those who love them and admire them. And we've been very fortunate to have had some Farmhouse alums that have received this in the past. Now, just a little backstory. I approached the exec board soon after I came and asked if maybe the men would like to sew. So we did. And I'll explain this because the first couple of years we just sewed strips, and then I cut them down into, and then this one, you have a 10-inch square of fabric, and if you put a diagonal strip of masking tape down the middle, they can sew very straight. So that's what we did. Now, unfortunately, there is only one quilt this year because my Old Faithful sewing machine decided, and I received that when I graduated from high school in 1968. So it is basically a very sturdy, long-lasting machine, but it had to be tweaked this year. So we only were able to do one. And so maybe some of the younger men that are in the fraternity were not able to sew as much as maybe it would. So I'm sure they will. We start in January, and I snag them as they walk by and do sew on that. And then a friend, Liz Myman, who is from Nevada also, she does the stitching on that.
we are calling it a quilt of honor because our recipient did pass away this year. And again, a very talented, dedicated veteran that lived his life with honor and distinction. And Adam will tell you about that.
Thank you, Jamie. So our 2023 Quilt of Honor recipient was Thomas Spear. I would like to read a portion of his obituary and then a letter that his sister wrote us after finding out that he was the recipient. After completing ROTC and his Bachelor of Science degree in Aerospace Engineering from Iowa State University in 1975, Thomas Spear was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Air Force and began his career as an aeronautical engineer at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. He was chosen to attend the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base in California, where he graduated with top honors as a flight test engineer in 1980. Tom's subsequent assignments were with the Canadian Air Force Base at Cold Lake in Alberta, Canada, then at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, where he earned his master's degree in aeronautical engineering from the Air Force Institute of Technology and worked as a control system integration manager for the Short Takeoff and Landing Maneuver Technology Demonstrator aircraft. Following his time in the Air Force, Tom joined the Boeing Corporation in Seattle, where he worked for 14 years in a variety of programs. He was a principal engineer on the Tier 3 Dark Star unmanned aircraft program and the lead engineer for the KC-767 aerial refueling boom control law development, among other projects. He was recognized by Boeing for his outstanding work, attaining the level Boeing Associate Technical Fellow, and holds 19 patents under his name. His expertise in aerodynamics, flight testing, and flight mechanics made him a valuable member of the engineering design team for the 33rd America's Cup. From 2008 to 2010, he worked as a consulting engineer for BMW Oracle Racing, where he helped design and build the massive trimaran USA 17. In February 2010, USA 17 went on to win the 33rd America's Cup races in Valencia, Spain, bringing the cup back to America. President Obama recognized the AC-33 BMW Oracle team, including Tom and the design team, at the White House. After retiring from Boeing in 2010, Tom joined Oracle Team USA as a wing designer for the 34th America's Cup, raced in a spectacular 72-foot AC-72 wing sail foiling catamarans. These were the fastest sailboats ever to compete for the America's Cup, reaching a speed of 50 miles per hour, more than twice the speed of the wind, and cost over $10 million to build. In the longest match racing series in AC history, Oracle Team USA defeated Emirates Team New Zealand 9-8 in September 2013 in San Francisco Bay, with the stunning 8-race come-from-behind win. Tom was widely recognized for his wing sail design in the AC-33 and AC-34, and was widely quoted in numerous print and online sources, including the LA Times, Sail Magazine, Sailing World, and the British sailing publication Seahorse Magazine. Tom was frequently invited to speak on wing sail aerodynamics, and one of his presentations from 2014 is available online. In 2013, Tom joined his third AC design team for the 35th America's Cup held in Bermuda in 2017. For AC-35, Tom designed hydrofoils and wing sails and created a dynamic velocity prediction program used to optimize Oracle Team USA's 50-foot AC-50 wing sail foiling catamarans. He was once again working with the finest yacht designers and sailors in the world, racing the most extreme fastboats. Tom will be remembered as a brilliant engineer, a skilled sailor, and a loving husband and father. Memorial service for Tom will be held April 19th, 2023 at the 7th Avenue Presbyterian Church in San Francisco, and we will be sending this quilt on Monday morning out to San Francisco so that it can be there for his memorial service. Kristen Spear, sister to Tom Spear, wrote the following letter in response to his award. This quilt is a great honor to our brother Tom, who passed away in November 22 after an intense year fighting kidney cancer. While his obituary touches on his career of great accomplishments, his big launch in life came from his time at Iowa State and his years in FarmHouse. Being the firstborn of us 4 siblings, it was a big deal when our folks drove Tom out from our tiny farm town of 600 people to Iowa State in the fall of 1971, and on a subsequent visit that year, it was clear that the dorm situation wasn't ideal. So pledging FarmHouse in the spring was hugely important for a lot of reasons, and Tom had his sights set on only one fraternity, FarmHouse. Our father had been at FarmHouse at Kansas State, but Dad didn't want to pull any strings to get Tom into FarmHouse at ISU. Apparently, none of that was needed. Tom was accepted, and it was happiness all around. Tom thrived farmhouse, enjoying activities and camaraderie while excelling in academics as an aeronautical engineering major. One thing my mom remembered was the farmhouse guys taking up a collection to buy the cook a car. The cooking was very fine indeed, and they wanted to show their appreciation. Tom was commissioned into Air Force right after graduation. He elected to do ROTC because of his horrible draft number for the Vietnam War and attended ROTC training on the weekends. When he attended an Air Force summer program in Columbus, Ohio, he was impressed with what the Air Force could offer him in terms of an engineering career, and he pursued that path to do cutting-edge aeronautical engineering design, his great passion. While at Ames, he also discovered sailing that was a secondary passion that stayed with him for the rest of his life. I wish we had, as I'm sure there were many stories of Tom and farmhouse guys doing crazy, funny things that college guys do. Those stories may be lost in the passage of time, but has remained as the fondness, appreciation, and respect for the wonderful experience Farmhouse offered our brother during those critical years that were the foundation of his life that was well lived. Thank you, Farmhouse, for then and now. Sincerely, Kristen Spear, sister to Tom Spear. So that is our 2023 Quote of Honor recipient, Thomas E. Spear. That is the last that you have to hear from me this evening. I'd like you to know that. So I'll turn it over to Colton to begin our scholarship presentation.
I'm gonna turn it over to Matt, so. Correction, Dwayne.